All right, everyone, we're going to be starting the session now. So first off, I'd like to welcome everyone. I'm Daniel, and on behalf of Hazmat, I'd like to welcome everyone to our second Alumni Extravaganza Qualifier Prep Workshop. We're going to be learning a lot from our alumni, hopefully from the team, and hopefully we'll take away a few things for the next session next year. So I hope everyone's as excited to learn as I am to teach, so let's get to it. So a little bit about this session. We have a bunch of teams attending, both in person and online. We have teams from Vietnam, South Africa, Kazakhstan, India, and Indonesia online. And thank you to the teams coming in person. We have Pack a Punch from Brookfield, Hapabots from Milwaukee, and then we also have Paradox from Madison coming in shortly. So this workshop is a unique opportunity to gain insights from people who have been in the same situation as you, both people still in FTC and people who have graduated onto college and beyond. This is led by all of our Hazmat members as well as our alumni from all across Wisconsin. And it's aimed to inspire our participants, to equip them with new knowledge, and to give them some confidence for their next competition. Now, here's a little schedule of how we're going to go through things. So we'll start, we have three 30-minute sessions with the timestamps here, and then we'll conclude our virtual session at 12 p.m. That's what we're aiming for. And then after 12 p.m., we'll have in-person attendees stay for lunch, robot support from both alumni and Hazmat team members. And we'll have a small scrimmage with all the teams here, if they're up for it, with Hazmat and all the other teams. So now I'd like you guys to meet the alumni. So we have three alumni in attendance today. We have Sophia Ali, a super stellar 191417 alumni. She's studying mechanical engineering at Purdue right now. We have Kevin Hui, alumni from FRC Beast. He's a mechanical engineer at Precious and Sharp. And then we also have Pavan, who's running a little late, but he'll be here. He's an alumni of this team, 13201. He's studying biomedical engineering at Madison. So with all that information, let's get started with our first session, which is judging.
Hi, everybody. We're going to go over a few things. Firstly, what is judging? You guys should know a little bit, but we'll kind of go over more of the details, and we'll go into what you should be talking about, kind of overall, what the judges are looking for, what will get you awards, and then we'll move into how you should prepare. Some things that you might want to have ready, like props, we'll go over that, and then as well as our experience, kind of some tips and tricks that we've learned, and we'll share that with you.
So first off, what is judging? Judging is one of the most essential parts to a robotics qualifier. It is what you use to present to your judges to allow them to get an insight on your team and be able to learn more about you. It consists of your scripted judging presentation, which lasts about 5 minutes, and then a Q&A with the remaining time. So your scripted presentation is really your pitch, you rehearse it, you want to make sure that you can get out as much information about your team to the judges so that they really get to see what you have done this season. And then the Q&A portion is where they get to ask questions to you, and that's when they start getting more in depth as to what you have presented. And even sometimes you'll see like judges who have been at previous qualifiers. They cannot go off of anything that they already know about your team unless you explicitly tell it to them in judging. So make sure that you really get it out there. You'll see. They already know about. Tell it to them.
All right. One thing that you should start when you're in judging with is definitely team overview, right? You want to get that strong introduction. You want to be energetic. You need to first introduce yourselves, your team, maybe something unique about yourselves that will make you stand out later. as well as your mission, kind of what your team's vision is for the future. This can be for yourselves, like sustaining your own members, or it can be for your community. Next, you want to go into like kind of deeper. Once you've set your skills, right? Like your goals, what you want to grow in. You want to show the judges that you've actually, developed these things. That not only you made a plan, you stuck to it. Either what you have done, your progress, or what you're going to do next. But that's all about the team attributes, right? But what about like the MCI awards? You got a little bit about your robot design. So this is going to be like your design process, why you chose the parts of your robot that you did, and then also your Innovate Award, right? So what's unique about your robot? This can be a part or a whole, but you gotta pitch this, right? It's kind of a business pitch. Why should the judges remember your robot? Lastly, challenges. So this can be pretty much anything. Maybe it's, oh, your robot had a flaw and you needed to fix this. Or maybe it's with your team, like you guys had some miscommunications. But you want to figure out what is a challenge that you had, how did you solve it? Especially if you solved it using any of the pillars of first, maybe it's like teamwork. But if you were able to do this with the help of your team, you've documented it, then just tell the judges, you gotta be excited. And they will like that a lot.
The next thing you want to talk about is your programming strategy. The first thing that you should be talking about is any highlights that you have. So any achievements that you've done with your programming over the year, you want to include that, like automation or any custom algorithms that you have for your robot. You also want to share how your design aligns with the game plan or play strategies and show how this is maximizing your scoring opportunities. You want to talk about your community outreach and impact. So talk about any community events that you have held and efforts to promote STEM education. You also want to talk about any collaborations you've had with other teams or if you've mentored teams. And lastly, impact and share how your team's outreach has made a difference locally or beyond.
Okay, how you should prepare. So first, you want to understand the judging process. For this, I would highly recommend to familiarize yourself with the awards and the criteria for each award. Also, study the judge manual. There's lots of judge manuals and game manuals. For judge manuals, it tells you what the judges are looking for and what possible questions they might ask you. For game manuals, it's about how to score points and how the game might work. You also have 5 minutes for your entire script, and the rest of the time is for questions and answers, which I know each of you love. But this is your first time that you're meeting the judges, so you want to have a good impression on them. So if I were you, I would speak very professionally. Next, prepare their materials. So for this, you want to give your engineering portfolio to the judges as you speak your script. And your engineering portfolio is basically your entire season on just 16 pieces of paper. And while you're explaining your robot parts and your script, I would point out all the key features on your robot, showing which parts affect which ones. And if you have any visual posters or presentations, I would use those because they support your presentation very well.
Some more things that you should do when preparing for judging is that you should really make sure that you create a strong presentation to give to the judges. You can emphasize this by creating a visual judging presentation on Google Slides or Canva. And you can fill it out to support your scripted presentation to add that extra visual element to help the judges really understand the point that you're trying to get across. You also want to make sure that it has a structure to it. So you can start by introducing your team and how it's set up, how your robot is designed, and then based off your robot design, you can maybe move into stuff like software and business afterwards. Just make sure that you have like some sort of an organization to it so that it's easy for the judges to be able to follow along. You also really want to make sure that you rehearse and practice your script because you only have 5 minutes to pitch yourselves to the judges. So you really need to be sure to get all of the information that you need to out there. Another thing is that you should practice potential judging questions and how you can answer them. For example, you can assign a team member to know that this is information that they would answer if a question were to come up. You can also check out pre-made question banks that the judges have and that judges will be able to go off of. So these will really help you to prepare for what types of questions correlate to which awards and what types of answers you need to get out there.
Hi, my name is Rohit. I'm just going to be talking about some tips and tricks during judging. So one of the biggest things is just being concise and organized. You only have 5 minutes for your actual presentation, and you want to get as much info out there so then you're able to, the judges know more stuff about you, and they're going to be able to ask more questions about it in Q&A. You want to fill it up with that important info, the stuff that's going to help you actually get higher in these award categories. You want to keep it engaging, so you don't want to, as much as we say keep it professional, you also want to be a kid. You don't just want to have a straight face. You also want to smile a lot. You just want to act very as a child would do. You don't want to just be like you're presenting some pitch for a business. It's one of the big things that judges really enjoy. They love looking at just kids enjoying what they're doing, and it definitely helps you. During Q&A, you want to be very honest and thoughtful. Think before every answer and see how you can word an answer to fit different categories. So based off all the awards and criterias, you can think of answers that will hit these different things. One big thing is like if they ask one question, you don't need to keep it to that category. You can kind of branch off a little bit. You can answer more questions through one question. And again, keep it enthusiastic. You don't want to lose all your power during Q&A. Keep it going. You still have 10 more minutes almost to keep it going. Another big thing, as we previously talked about, is visual aids. So you can use your props, you can use your robot in general. One of the things last year we did was with our extending intake and claw, we would actually have the person who would talk about our whole intake system. They would take our intake, they would extend our slides and show each and everything. Just show the judges, it gives something to look at. A lot of props help. So you have poster boards. These poster boards, some things we use is like for our mechanical design process. We can pinpoint every single part in the design process, and we're able to show it to the judges. It helps show pictures. Pictures help a lot, especially in judging, when these judges are able to look at these different pictures and actually see what's happening behind the scenes. And again, biggest thing, just captivate the judge's attention the whole time. You want to keep their attention in, and you want them to be watching you in everything you say.
All right, everyone. Now we'll move on. So this was a lot of information. So I hope some of you have questions. We'll move on to our questions as well as our alumni time, where these questions can be directed at either the alumni or the team, and we can try and help answer your question using the experience of the alumni and the experience of the team right now in this current season. So with that said, does anyone have any questions, either in person or virtual, about what we've just presented or anything else? Zidane Harb, I see you have a question.
Yeah, so quick question. You said there's like a slideshow you could give to give visuals. Is there like will there be like a live TV where I could put like a Canva slideshow on there? Because I remember last year that wasn't available for us. A slideshow you could
Just has to text in the chat. Oh, could you type your question in the chat? I think you're cutting out. while he's typing that question, I actually had a question that a lot of people have asked me. How important do you guys think judging is to the competition to First as a whole?
Hi everyone, my name's Pavan. I was on Team Hazmat a couple years ago. I think judging is definitely very important, not just for like first and like each competition individually, but obviously it's a life skill to be able to talk in front of people and uh, be under an interview type format and articulate your words properly. I think it helped a lot in that sense, in general, and then also being able to pick and choose what you want to talk about on the spot and kind of identify what your hit points are is really important, and I think that's a great way judging actually gets that involved.
So Emily from Palindrome had another question. She asked, how many people do you recommend having join the presentation? The whole team or just a few? Yeah. So Emily, question, she asked, how many people do you recommend?
Do you get the question?
Yeah. Okay. I think everyone should be as many people as possible. Like obviously, the more the better. I don't think it can hurt to have more people in judging just because you want to show what every person did on your team. So if there's 15 people on your team, let 15 people come into the judging room. I mean, that's what we did for most of my time. And not everyone has to, answer every question or anything like that. They can split their time up. They can talk 2 sentences if they want to, but showing the amount of people on your team and like who put in effort and it's still a good experience, and I think everyone should be involved. So.
Okay. Zidane asked a question from Cyber Salam, and I can answer this one. So he said, you mentioned something about having a slideshow to give the judges as a visual. Is there a TV or a screen that will be available to the team? So I don't think there's a TV available for the team provided from First. So you'll have to bring in a monitor just from maybe one of the coaches, or if the team wants to get together to fund that. But it is a very helpful visual aid. Our team ourselves uses that to kind of as an add-on to the scripts, as a visual aid, so that the judges can see what the people are talking about, and it's not just verbal advice, or it's not just verbal information, but also visual.
I have a question for the alumni. So with all our judging and everything, how much do you think it actually helps in the real world, like in real interviews or things like that?
Like Pavan said, the judging is really, really helpful for like real world experience, for like public speaking, because definitely in college, but like definitely like in your jobs too, you 100% need to know how to do that. And I think a lot of people go into it, like into college, not knowing how to do that. But if you are in First and you've done like judging or speaking to judges before, it really, really helps because you have like an edge up like after high school.
Kevin, do you have any, as a judge, being a judge previously, do you have anything that helps stand out?
Coming from personal experience in the workforce, especially having the ability to talk to people, being to effectively communicate with each other is really important. It doesn't matter if you know how to do everything, but if you can't communicate and work well with your peers and your managers, you won't be able to get anything done. So especially talking to each other, having interpersonal skills is very, very important, and especially having a good first impression, especially for when you interview for your first job. Having a good personality and being easy to work with goes a lot. So.
Do you have any tips like that we've probably talked about a good amount of them, but do you have anything in judging that actually helps you stand out or makes you just takes you to another level?
Being passionate about what you do, being excited about what you do. This is not just another club that you're doing. This is something that you should be excited for. And when you're judging, that's the personal skills that really show the judges. As long as you're excited, about what you do and you show it to us, that's what really gets all the judges excited. Well,
Does anyone from online or in person have any more questions about what we've just talked about so far with the judging presentation? Okay, so then we will move to our next session, which is the portfolio creation.
All right, so for a portfolio, one of the biggest things actually in judging is your portfolio. I don't think it gets as much recognition as it should be. A good portfolio can actually take it a long way. So the biggest thing for a portfolio is actually looking at the award criteria, answering every single award question, and being able to hit those marks, you know. But let's bring it back one step. What is an actual portfolio? So you have your engineering portfolio. This is a 15-page document, not including the cover. And this thing, you can put anything about your team, really. But you want to have your points emphasized and make sure they actually have enough detail to answer these questions. There's a different criteria. So you want to, the way we split it up is we split it up in business, mechanical, software, and game strategy. You want to have a good flow throughout your portfolio. It's just like reading a book. You don't want to have it jumping everywhere. You want to be able to have the judges just flip through it and be able to just read everything. And that's one thing, reading everything. You don't want to have this a ton of words packed into this little portfolio. Keep it detailed, but also have being able to be legible. So things you should include. Include things, anything that will answer those criteria of judging. So this is pretty much everything you can say in your judging, like judging time and more. You want it to be able to answer everything you've done, show everything you've done throughout your season. You should be grateful for what you've done throughout your season, and it'll show here through your portfolio. There's a ton of tips and tricks that we're going to be going over, and we'll start up here.
Yes, so let's go over some of the awards that are presented like on your portfolio. So first we got Inspire Award, which relies you to have a high quality portfolio with proper engineering content to be backed it up with, and teams usually that qualify for Inspire are also really strong contenders for the MCI awards, TA awards, and the Think awards as well. So it makes them pretty overall a well-rounded team. Sorry, and makes them really successful. Next, we got the Think Award, which heavily relies on your engineering process, your design analysis, your lessons learned and trade-offs you have done throughout the season. So for example, we use a Pew matrix, which allows us to assess different criteria and allows us to pick the best option for our game for the season based on efficiency and reliability. This has to be pretty well structured and organized for the judges to easily read your information clearly, and because of their limited amount of time they're given. Next, we got the Connect Award, which relies on your connection to the engineering community, making those relationships either in person or virtually. And that comes a long way and is very valuable and will help you in the long run of your team. And this also requires you to establish team goals to show your development steps in the later season. And next we got the Sustain Award, which in the Sustain Award, it shows you like how you sustain your team in the long run, being like creating defined roles in your team. Like we said, we had a mechanical sub team, the software sub team, game strat, and we also have business, and we have clear leaders in each of those sub teams, as well as a team captain. And we document that process to keep clear progress of our growth during the season.
So next we have the Reach Award. So the criteria for this award is that you want to have clear outreach objective with documented impact. So this is where you want to really show how you really organized all these outreach events by putting these in your notebook, such as the business notebook that we have. And also doing active recruitment for first members, teams, and volunteers. So you could run events with, for example, like FLL scrimmages or workshops and stuff, where you can really educate the people in your community. And also doing other outreach that shows first in your community, really bringing your community together and really involving them in this first program. And next, we have the Innovate Award. The Innovate Award is when you have a really unique and creative robot design. So this doesn't have to be your entire robot, but just a specific element of your robot. And this is where you really want to document how you did that using your design process. It really came, why did you choose this idea? So for example, using a risk mitigation, so pros and cons and other stuff like that. Next, the Control Award. This is where you want to document your hardware and software. So example, again, the engineering notebooks that we have. And this allows you to show, again, your design process, why did you choose it, and what made you come up with that design in the end. And also showing consistency, showing that this design works and that it doesn't really, it's not like a flaw or like it happens once every like 10 times. You really want to test that out and show that to the judges during in pit judging or in judging in general. And reliability as well, once again. Next is the design award. This is where you want to show you have a good design. It's not just like a bunch of like metal just combined together, really giving it a nice little style, a look, but also a reason for that. So which would align with your game strategy. So like why you need that. If you want to build a huge robot, why you choose that and really style it up.
Going back to what actually is a portfolio. So I kind of talked about how it's a 15-page document and it summarizes your whole engineering journey from starting this year. We're allowed to set anything that happened from January 1st of last year, and you're able to put everything in there. So put everything in there, take advantage of it. You have this chance to be able to showcase anything you did. It's pretty much your primary document of what the judges will look for when looking at awards. They take in your portfolio as one big thing and your judging Q&A. It provides a very focused and it provides a very easy place that judges can be like, oh, let me look at this certain blah, 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 this event they did. So you want to keep it organized, keeping it organized being it's structured in a certain way. Maybe you have a table of contents where judges can be able to just take one part and look at that. It makes it really easy for the judges to skip right there. And as again, back to our awards over here, you want to be able to showcase everything in the awards criteria through your portfolio and while you're also answering questions. But this is also a big thing if you can almost answer every single thing in your portfolio.
So what needs to be actually in it? It has to have some basic team information, such as a brief introduction of the team, team missions, team goals, and what your team wants to focus on during the season. It should also have team roles, so every member on the team has a clear role and it has documented what that person has done to the team and what they want to accomplish. Next is the engineering design process. Basically, how you document how you solve problems. First, you explain what the problem is. Next is how you document brainstorming, how you researched it, and any initial ideas you made. Then is prototyping, how you made the prototype, how you tested it, what went well, what didn't go well, and how you improved it. And then finally, it's the final design. You showcase the final solution, how innovative it is, how effective it is, and how efficient it is. Next is the robot design itself. So both the mechanical aspects and the programming aspects. The mechanical aspects focus on the materials used, the mechanisms made, and the overall features of the robot. Next, programming includes an overall programming goal, any code highlights you have, and any issues that you have went on the way and you solved.
Hi, everyone. My name is Akshay, and I'm here to talk about the other stuff that you should include in your portfolio. So the first branch of things that you should include are your strategy and your game plan during the game, during teleop. What are you doing with your robot? What are you doing to communicate with your alliance partner? What are you doing to win the game? What are you doing to win all the games after that game? Are all things that you should include and should talk about in your portfolio, just to show the judges how much you care. The next thing that you should include is your team outreach and impact, which is arguably the most important thing on this list. This is just showing that you did everything, right? Because you already did everything. You just have to show them that you did it, which again, you can do by taking pictures, right? Nobody can really use words to explain everything. You can't talk about everything going on. If you could, you'd basically just be Shakespeare, right? You need to take photos to show how you did it and to help the judges visualize what you did. So you have to talk about your community outreach, how you talk to people, how you helped promote STEM in your community, how you showed STEM to people outside and during farmers markets and things like that. You have to show how you collaborated with other teams and organizations like we're doing right now as well, right? And you also want to show sustainability, how you're helping your team recruit future members and how you're helping your team gain knowledge. And the last thing that you want to include is a reflection. What you're doing to iterate upon your robot, what you're doing to iterate upon your software, how you're working to help make sure that you do better next competition, what you're doing better in the next judging, what you're doing better in the next bid judging. Those are all things that you should include. Thank you.
Moving on to your business portfolio, you want to start off with having a title page to make sure that you know which portfolio is which. Make sure that you brand it to your team. You want the judges to be sure that this is your presentation. You don't want it to like be mixed up with any other teams. You can try and design it based off of the season to really separate your how far your team has come through all the years as you progressed. And you also really want to like make sure that it's specialized for you. Another important thing is a table of contents because that will allow the judges to really be able to look through your portfolio quickly and be able to find the information that they are looking for. Your next page should include your team overview. Like we mentioned earlier, you want to present your team, who's on the team, what everybody does. You really want to show that everybody has a part on your team and that everybody gets to contribute. On this slide, you would also include things such as your team goals. Like, for example, we want to practice more financial sustainability. So then here are some examples of how we have done this season with our budgeting and how we get more finances. That is one example of a team goal that you could represent on this slide. You also want to represent your individual team members' goals to show how everybody is growing and learning throughout the season.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have a page for each of them. First off, connect. Then we're going to talk about reach and sustain, formerly known as motivate. All right. So the Connect Award is being able to connect with other people within within STEM, like robotics. And so you want to make sure that you have things like your outreaches. Things like this right now is a good thing to put in Connect. We're reaching out with other teams. We are teaching them a little bit about our experience. And we also recommend that you put not only like how you work with other teams, but also mentors, sponsors, because that shows that you can also work with not only at your like peer level, but also with adults as well. We also like, you know how we said, okay, so you got your peer teams, right? And then you got your mentors, which are kind of like above you as well, your sponsors. But don't forget about maybe the teams that you mentor yourselves. So that way you have like the full, like the ladder, I would say. And it shows that you are able to work with a multitude of different people with all different kinds of status, and that you're just like a well-rounded team. Don't forget social media. We post on Insta all the time. This is one of the ways that we communicate with teams. We have a YouTube channel as well. I recommend that every team has some sort of digital footprint in terms of social media. This is how you can get the word out, and you can reach a wider audience as well. So you're not limited to just who you can talk to, like physically. We are live streaming on YouTube, by the way, so I recommend checking that out after the fact if you guys want to review anything said here. I'm gonna go into the Reach Award. So Reach is similar to Connect. However, it's more geared towards the people outside of First. So you were trying to reach out to new people and bring them in. I would say things geared like demos at schools, right? You are showing off your robot to students who maybe have never heard of robotics before. Maybe they've never heard of STEM, and you're teaching them about what FIRST is about, what robotics is, how cool it is. You're making them think, wow, I want to do this when I grow up. That's Reach. It's kind of similar to Connect in a lot of ways in what you could be putting in. So you have your outreaches, right? And how your team interacts with your community, as well as we have what we call First Ambassador. So that's like the process we have of being like a representation of First, right? We go out to people and we show them why First is so cool, why we're in it, why we love it, and try to persuade them to join First. This is also why another reason why social media is so important, right? You want to be able to market your team, and that way you can, like I said, the audience, right? The wide audience, you're going to be able to reach so many new people, and hopefully get the word out, and they can start teams in their own school or district. Last, Sustain Award. This is more about developing and keeping not only the First program, but also your teams alive. So we could say that this is also, we could file this under Sustain as well. That's another thing. If you can file your outreaches in multiple different awards, I would definitely encourage at least hinting at that, because that way it also, you can knock out a lot of boxes. And so we have our alumni here, right? So this is one of the ways that we like to do sustaining. And so we have our wonderful, wonderful alumni with so much experience in their big brain heads. And they teach us a lot about the things that they learned, the pitfalls that they might have faced, how they can help us not make the same mistakes, how we can grow and develop. And that's kind of why we have them here, to teach all of you guys. So that's Sustain. We have the financial sustainability, the budget that we talked about on the second page of your portfolio. That's also Sustain as well. Financially, how do you get the money? What are you spending? Maybe fundraisers that you do. We did a bake sale last season, and so that would be considered Sustain. Yeah, I would just say that when you are putting down averages for each of these awards, you wanna make sure that you can really categorize them, right? You don't want to have to frame it in a way like, oh, how about we just put it in this one just because? When you're planning an outreach, you want to have an award in mind. That way, it's just a lot easier in the long run, and the judges will be able to tell more like the all-around impact of your team, right? Your team wants to be hitting every award if possible, so that you can get you can be a good contender in Think, and you can be a good contender in Inspire.
Okay, so for your business portfolio, there's obviously like a lot of ways you can do this. These are just some examples that like this is how you can have it formatted if you want like a formatting aid to help you understand how like you should be having it when you're doing it. One thing that I think is really important is like somewhat having it color coded or just going with a certain color. Like, of course, you can have multiple colors if you want to, but don't have like every color under the spectrum on here. Like, this is like mainly just blue, that's pink, and that's purple, and that just like showcases like your team. And if you want to use that to like showcase your team colors, you could. These are some more, again, they're somewhat color coded, which can definitely help show like like it can show that you're more professional.
Hello, I'm Caleb. This is my first year on Hazmat, and I'm on the mechanical team. So I'm going to talk about the mechanical portfolio. So our mechanical portfolios is three main components: the important info, iterations, and our design process. So important info includes certain details about each subsystem, unique features. It can include different math for like your climber and stuff. It's the important minor details that stand out to judges. Iterations. So this is usually the bulk of our portfolio. It shows our change throughout the season and how we've grown and developed, the challenges we faced. It covers all of those. And so that's usually one of the biggest parts of our mechanical portfolio. The third part is the design process. So this is the process we use between iterations to develop and to really just track ourselves and make sure that we're like advancing, but we're not skipping over steps to pace ourselves. And so those are the three main aspects of our mechanical portfolio.
So here's some examples of the mechanical portfolio design. So on the left, we can see that there's some pictures of the chassis with things pointed out, like the pulley-driven wheels. On top, we can see there's a box that says custom manufacturing. So it's kind of like on what they use to like enclose their wheels and stuff. And that's like some of the main ideas. Then down here, we can see they have chassis iterations from version 1 to version 3, and it shows like what they use each one for. On the right, we can see that they have like subsystems and like the iterations for it. And they have it from what they started off with to what they ended and pictures to show it. Down on the bottom, we can see an important design decisions area, which shows why they chose one option over another. It's sort of like their design process, and it shows like why they chose one design option and like what was good or bad about it.
So for your programming portfolio, there are three main things that you want to have on there. So your key algorithms, so that would be like what algorithms do you use in your code to make it stand out from other teams? For example, last year our team used bicubic dynamic acceleration for controllers to make a controller smooth, and we used bicubic dynamic acceleration, and we used splines in our autos to make them smoother. And this year we're using auto ending with limelight camera, so that would be another algorithm that we use that stands out from other teams. So the control award, this is how you get the control award because the judges look for how you use your software, and they look for how you use your software and how you integrate it into your robot and how you innovate using it. Code highlights. this would be like any like unique concepts, any unique algorithms in your code, like previously stated. What sensors do you use in your robot? So odometry would be a sensor for your autos. That's what we're using this year. And another thing would be like state machines to make sure your subsystems don't conflict with each other while your robot's running. And how you actually code the robot. So how you like plan out your programming, how you do your class designs, how you structure your classes, and how you like plan your code out before, so to make sure like you don't like you have a smooth like programming process. So here's some examples of portfolio design. They have clear and concise explanations for how they use for what they use in their programming. So this team uses FTC lib, and it's one of the many libraries out there for FTC programming. And so they explain a bit about it, and they explain how they integrate it into the robot. They also include their algorithms like the state machine here, which like I stated previously, it makes sure that their subsystems don't conflict with each other. And a few unique concepts like stated before. So like the row genre here and the odometry. So those are unique and they stand out from the other teams because not because of sorry. They show how they integrate the roadrunner with these paths here, and yeah.
So moving on, we have an example of a portfolio template that you can use. We'll go back to the QR code in a moment for you to take a look at it. So this is just an example of a portfolio template that you could use. So for example, your intro slide with your branding, and you really can include a team picture. This is what you would have it on, like before you start the presentation, as you get into it, and then it would continue on after that. So then this is an example of your teammates. You would have like pictures of your teammates, what they do, their goals, how you represent your team. And this is like how you show who does what, everybody contributes. We're all a team and we're working together here, right? You can also include like your business stuff. You want to have your goals again, how you budget your team is an example. That's very important. Financial sustainability is one of the big things that your team needs to focus on. And then you could also include your sponsors. You want to include your sponsors in a lot of things because they're sponsoring your team. You want to represent them and thank them for their assistance. You can also show your like business goals, your plans, how you really organize your season, how you plan it out beforehand, and how you go about your outreach and events. This is another example of like the same type of idea here. You would also want to include pictures of your outreach. An example of a way that you can organize it is that you can organize it by award category, by who you've interacted with. So for example, here maybe we can have some FL teams, and we'll update this for this season because the Motivate Award is no longer. Then, so you can have like FL stuff here, and then maybe on the other side, you can include like fundraisers, but really keep it kind of categorized so it's easier for the judges to be able to follow. This is an example of how you can show like your mentors, how they have helped out with your team, other ways that you've engaged with like mentorship and other companies, how you are learning as a team. And a game strategy example is that you would have a picture of the field. Maybe you could show your autonomous paths, how you plan to do things on Teleop, your game strategy score, how you will scout for other teams. And then in mechanical, you want to have your design process, really emphasize your design process, and then pictures of your subsystems and how they are, you can like explain them as well. An example of something that you might want to include is like CAD renders, pictures of logs, older versions as you show newer ones to show that you've iterated on this design. And then for gamepad design, this is driver control. You want to show how you have optimized your game controller for when you're like driving your robot around to really help out your drivers and make sure that they're comfortable. You want to show off your programming, include your design process again for however you use your design process in your software part. Include pictures of maybe some of the cameras on your robot and how they're supposed to function, pictures of code and other sorts of testing that you've done. For autonomous, you can show your autonomous path. And then for your timeline and your catchphrase, this is really to like really set in stone and re-emphasize the most important things you've done this season and how you want the judges to be able to remember you. And you can also include a team catchphrase here so that it's something that adds a little bit of that extra power to your team and really brings out that sort of response that you want from them. And you can also include like acknowledgements, your team picture, people that you really want to emphasize, and then another catchphrase.
So right now the QR code is not working, but we will be sending out this slideshow to all the teams attending, both virtual and in person. So if you want to look at that, take inspiration from it, use it, we will send the link out so you guys will be able to look at this.
And another thing, this is of course just a template, just like the starter kits. We highly recommend taking this, adding to it, making it your own. It doesn't have any branding, so definitely make sure your team has some sort of branding, fonts, colors, maybe shapes, definitely logos. Put that in there, change it up, and make it your own. You want it to scream, your team. And so take it and just run with it, guys.
Continuing on with the colors, some of the like important things about your portfolio is that you really want to make sure that it represents you as a team, but also gets your point across. Use a lot of visuals. Visuals really help the judges to get information much quicker than reading a whole paragraph and all that stuff. CAD renders, pictures of you guys at events, interacting with other teams. It really helps to enhance the judge's understanding of the information that you want to convey to them. You need to really be creative with your colors, make sure they represent your team. An example of this is like all about team branding. You can create a like color spreadsheet. I don't know if you know what those are, but so basically you would have the colors that you want to represent your team. It's like a color palette. You have the hex codes, the RGB information, so that you can keep things consistent. You don't want to have like a bright neon shade of green on one page and then more of an olive one on another. You want to have it be the same color to really make sure that it represents you and that they make that connection. You also want to make sure that it's organized, keep it clear and concise. You can really organize it through your awards is an example. Again, like the events, who you've interacted with. You could put maybe a bunch of your goals in one section so that they can find these are all of our goals for this season. This is how we have accomplished them. And then that would be an example of one. Another one is that you really want to align it with your notebook if you have a notebook. The engineering notebook is another design and judging item that you would create. And you want to make sure that the information is consistent to really show that this is a solidified thing and that we know what is going on. You don't want to have one thing say, hey, we had 20,000 people attend this event. And then in your judging portfolio, you say that we only had 200. So double check the facts, make sure that the information is accurate. Although statistics are always a really great thing to have. Now we're moving on to if you have any questions and our alumni time, so you can direct them to our lovely alumni over here. As Jake had stated, they have these really big brains that can answer all your questions.
Hold up.
Do you want me to take the mic and read out?
You can just say it here. So one question we have is, are we Are we taking two different portfolios, an engineering portfolio and a separate business portfolio, each with a 15-page limit, or a singular 15-page portfolio? I think they got mixed up with the business notebook that someone talked about. You just want to clarify what the difference between a notebook and engineering portfolio.
Oh, so a notebook is a culmination of everything you've done throughout the season. It can be unlimited in length. Basically this includes like your daily logs and all the papers you've done. It's could be multiple booklets, but your engineering notebook is the concise 15-page document that is very specific on what you want the judges to see, because the judges won't have time to read a 100-page documents. Hopefully that answers the question.
So just a little clarification. This is, I think, new this season and also last season. The engineering notebook is no longer required by first, so it's just an additional document that you can provide to the judges as a whole. The portfolio is something that is required. It has, I think, 15-page limit. You can only have one whole engineering portfolio that includes business, mechanical software, all the things that we've outlined in this presentation. So notebook is something separate that you can make to show your entire journey in a much more in-depth way than the portfolio can, because the notebook has no page limit. So you can really write anything that you want with logs, full in-depth design process. While portfolio, you want to make sure that you're putting really good information, really important information, because you have a 15-page limit.
Yeah, adding on to Daniel, a notebook is really useful for pit judging. So when judges come to your pit, you're able to actually show them everything. Because they've already seen your portfolio at this time. It's good to show more detailed info. So things like actual data from your testing and everything. How much, like for example, in this game, how many artifacts did you shoot in a row continuously? Or out of 50 artifacts you shot, how many actually went in? Those are big big details and things you should show during pit judging that come into these notebooks. One more question from Miles from Paladrone. So what award might move you on to the next level of competition?
I think if I'm just understanding your question, it's let's say the Inspire Award. If you win the Inspire Award, that qualifies you to the next level of competition, no matter what qualifier you're at. So if you're at state and you win the Inspire Award, you qualify to the World Championships. But obviously, every award's important. Like the Inspire Award, again, is a culmination of all of the awards. So you really want to be at the top, be a top 3 team in every single award category. And that should be your goal. That'll put you in a good spot for consideration for Inspire or second Inspire or whatever the case is. So.
Yeah, this was actually there's a slightly different approach this season, which is completely new. There are ranking points for all the awards. The Inspire Award, I believe, does give you the most ranking points.
So what Pavan said is still true. If you win Inspire, you're almost guaranteed to move on to the next level. All other awards are rated the same in terms of the points that give you like qualifying points. So every single award is 15 qualifying points. Inspire second place is 30 points, and Inspire first place is 60 points. So it usually guarantees you a spot. All other awards are weighted the same, however. So
another question regarding a portfolio is from Eli from 14340. So he's seen a lot of different portfolios with different aesthetic designs, probably with some of the stuff we've shown here. There's people who try maximizing content, and then there's people who try going with good organization and aesthetics. So everyone has a different portfolio design, and how do you go about organizing, keeping things aesthetic and actually looking good while also keeping good info?
Yeah, I would really prioritize like using as limited like words as possible. I think that's something that we can all struggle with because we have so much information from a season and you want to really jam pack it in. But think about it from a judge's perspective. You're looking at how many other teams' portfolios in one day, and they get exhausted as anyone would. So being able to use your images, like use images that take up a decent amount of space. You don't want to like overcrowd anything. I would really like make sure that that's the first factor, and then after that, you can look at like you can maximize your information like what you want to put on your page after you pick up the images you want to use and things like that. That way you're not crowding everything with just words. And then after you get all your information down, then you can organize it and make it look clean and put your colors and your things like that. So
Yeah, adding on to Pavan, there's a lot of example portfolios on the internet. So a good example is going to portfolio.hivemindrobotics.net. They actually show a good amount of their info and how they manage aesthetics. Definitely, you'd also don't want to go so minimalistic where you have not much words, which is a really good thing.
In past years, we've also tried a lot of cramming. One thing we figured out the hard way is that judges really don't like it when you use font sizes 10 or less. So there's definitely a balance there. If you're looking at your portfolio and you realize to fit all this information, you need to have a really small font size, then that means that you really have to reconsider your formatting and how you're organizing everything. Me personally, I would definitely suggest that you have as many pictures as you can. Really good presentation etiquette is always to have as many visuals as possible with words to back them up and have, like the main info, the most important info. So me personally, I would always go the route of the more aesthetic and the more visual, because as they say, pictures, they contain 1,000 words. So that's me.
Another part to this question was if there were any styles that should be recommended or that are typically preferred by judges that would be considered better than others. I don't think that there would really be one of those. It really depends on you as your team and your design choices on yourself. Do you have any input, Alumni?
Stylistic choice for a portfolio. I mean, it's really subjective and it's really up to each individual judge because there's multiple judges from many different backgrounds. So I don't know if there's a definitive answer for that.
Another thing to keep in mind with the design choice is going back a little bit to fonts, make sure that you do choose a font that is easy to read. You don't want it to be like super cursive because that could be really hard for judges to read. Make it look nice, but also keep it simple. Also with that is for like the portfolio setup, there's many different ways you can do it. You can have it be portrait and vertical or landscape and horizontal, and the way that the pages flip is another thing that you should keep in mind and consider as you're designing it.
One question from Adil Malik. Are there ranking points for awards? So regarding advancements points, as we kind of covered before, the Inspire Award is worth 60 points. Inspire 2 is 30, Inspire 3 is 15. And then from there, every other award is covered as 12 points to help you advance to the next competition, let it be state or worlds. And then a question for our alumni from team 26903. How much does a pit design actually hold towards judging for awards? I mean, yeah, pit design.
it might not inherently like go towards awards or ranking points or things like that, but it definitely helps. Judges are always walking around and they have eyes everywhere, so that they'll definitely notice teams that are putting more effort into their pit. And obviously there's pit judging, so when they walk around and they see big banners or a lot of people working or like good indicators that way, they'll definitely take a notice of that and maybe even like take an extra stop at your pit. Or you never know, like it's very variable, but I would say it doesn't hurt or never, or like think about it this way: if there's a team that has no posters, no signs, nothing at their pit, it's just like a bunch of backpacks, versus someone that looks like they have posters up, visual aids, they want you to be invited. Which one would you want to go to, and which one do you think would like want, or like which one looks better? So that way, definitely put some time towards your pit as well.
Yeah, adding on to Pavan, a lot of good things with the pit design is keeping it open, almost like you're walking into like a room or a house, and it's like almost like inviting someone in. You don't want to close people off, as it just gives an it's not a direct, it's a very indirect thing of saying like kind of like you're not saying no to the judges, but you're also just not giving them the best attitude you could be. So keeping it open helps it kind of like a welcoming feel to give to the judges.
I have a question for the chat. I've been Victoria. How do I learn FGC thing that's not well documented?
How do you, so from YouTube chat, we have a question. How do you learn an FTC thing that's not very well documented or something that you want to learn more about? Like, I think he's,
I
yeah.
see. Okay, I would take advantage of opportunities like this one today, or even at qualifiers. I would be very open to asking teams that you see questions about like what they have, or like I guess like if I would walk around a qualifier and go to a pit and see something I don't know, be like open to asking questions and like trying to learn more in that sense, because I do know like there are some things that are harder to learn like online, or like the resources aren't there all the time, but talking to someone in person is like the best way. You can just ask them for what they did or how they did it.
Yeah, so adding on again to Pavan, one big initiative we also have is called FTC Wires, which we'll be talking about later in this presentation, but it does definitely help with resources. We have different resources. We'll go a little more in depth about wires later, but we have different resources. So if you're struggling about a certain thing, you can definitely look into that, and it has a lot of resources. Oh, all right. So we have one more question. If you're not sure how to answer a particular question, how do you go about it? Like, where do you start from? If you're struggling on how to answer a question.
Is this like for judging?
Yeah, for judging.
Okay, yeah. I'd say figure out like before judging, like before you go to the competition, figure out a couple main points you want to make sure to hit during judging. So just have like big ideas and then just get really good at improvising. You have to know how to like make stuff up on the spot. You can't just have like a fully written out answer before you go. So yeah, if you don't know how to answer something, just tie it back to something you do know, and then get good at making up an answer.
Again, what is a good way to end the portfolio? So what should be the last page, like the last thing that judge sees?
I would put, it really depends. I would put we put like our sponsors and like our fundraising, things like that on our last page. But you can also put like summaries, a little bit of each award. I know we've done that in the past, of like what, so like inspire, motivate, connect, whatever the awards are. Put like little summaries of why you think you deserve to either like win, or what you did to show that you finished the category, or like things like that. Just something summer like conclusion-esque, and that should be good enough. I feel like it's arbitrary.
My team used to do like the last slide, or the second last slide would be like the things we learned throughout the season, like that specific season, or like goals that we met and like achieved. Because that's a good thing to like leave the judges with, like something you got out of the season.
Any in person, do you guys have any questions in the back over there? Do you guys have any questions? All right. Any questions over here? All right, then we can keep it moving. Oh, sorry.
All right, next we have robot strategy. So one of the most important things I personally think is doing a game point analysis. So this is where you rank. This is where you rank your task from easy to hard. So as you can see, 1 is easy, 2 is medium, and 3 is, or my bad, the other way around. And this can really help you determine what task that you really need to accomplish, or which ones are more difficult for a team. And maybe after a qualifier, you can also do this and see which tasks were hard for you and what you can change or make better in your robot throughout the season. So I would say this is really good to help you understand what you need to work on and what you need to improve in your game, so that maybe at your next qualifier, something that was maybe medium difficulty or hard difficulty becomes much more easier for you. And when you're doing this game point analysis, just consider what your robot can do. Don't really think of like a amazing, like crazy robot that does everything insanely fast. Like, gotta be like realistic so that can help you much more better and understand what you have to do. So it's more easy. And after that, just build the robot to what you want it to do again, just like if it means to make a better launcher or make your robot stronger or other stuff like that, to just make sure that next qualifier you can improve and maybe check some of these things off and make sure you go faster and improve.
So our next thing is actually your strategy with the building a gamepad. So I think sometimes it does get overlooked, but it's actually a very important piece. So I'm personally a driver, and I have a very I like to keep everything on a lot of my triggers and buttons on the top, so then I don't actually have to like lock my fingers while speaking. I mean, while playing. So a lot of like you can see in this example, that launch button is right onto that bumper. So then what I'm pretty much doing is never actually taking my fingers off the gamepad to like, for example, press X. So like you have two drivers per match, and using them optimally is a very important thing. I've seen different places where sometimes it's just one driver doing it all, or people one time it will be one driver is actually just moving the robot and the others the one actually doing all the movements, let it be in taking or shooting. So yeah, again, split the controllers to make it easy. So you want to automate a lot of stuff. As much as you can, you want to keep things automated. So let's think like you have a transfer system to get to your launcher. You don't want the drivers pressing each button to transfer everything. This should all happen automatically. So then the driver has really minimal controls, and they only have to think about their actual strategy in the actual game. And practice, practice, practice. Everyone's gonna say we're gonna practice, but actually practice, and it's gonna take your robot game to another level. Even if you don't have as much confidence, it just builds a ton of confidence just being able to practice. And again, I said before, don't lock your fingers. It'll slow you down a ton because then you pretty much always want to have your fingers on these joysticks. So then you're able to always move the robot. Using the D-pad and everything like that will be hard because this is a really important joystick, and you have to use your thumb or a different finger to actually move that gamepad.
All right, next we have autonomous. So when you're building your autonomous, I'd recommend to create multiple paths. And this is because you never know who your alliance is going to be. You might have an alliance that only has like a far side auto, and if you have multiple auto paths, this will allow your team to just be more like optimized to all alliances, and you'll be able to score more points if you can make auto paths from different areas and different starting points. And when you're making your auto pets, you just want to make sure and be concerned about other robots around the field, because it's not just going to be when you're practicing at your field, just you by yourself. There are going to be other robots. This is why I recommend at like qualifiers and stuff, always meet up with your lines and just run like a quick match to see if your auto pads will just like run into each other, just to make sure that there's no confusion during the match. And to make this clear, always have like a handout which you can give to teams. So that just makes your communication much more easier. There's nothing like difficult. You can also add pictures like these over here, your starting point and your pads as well, so they can visually see what's going to happen when they're on the field. And obviously just always be ready for like any unexpected things, because not everything is going to be perfect. Talking from experience as a drive coach, sometimes our autos like don't work, and you always have to be ready to like either stop your program or just change things up all the time. And these pictures are right here are really good for what you can add in your portfolio. You can see they give the starting point and all those diagrams right there. So I'd recommend doing pictures like those. We personally use pedropathing visualizers for this, and it can really help you determine where your points are, and kind of gives you an easy way to just see where you're going to end up instead of just guessing where you're going to go. So yeah.
Hi guys, my name is Mani and this is my first year on Hazmat on the software team. And today we're going to be talking about optimizing auto, because you don't have much time for auto, you have 30 seconds, so you want to make the best of it. So first thing you can do is you can use parallel actions, which means moving two things at once. So you can like decrease the time you do to make a task. And number two is improving trajectories by implementing splines so that you can move in curved paths instead of taking more time to move straight in many directions.
Okay, going on a different tangent here, the design process, one of the most important parts of a portfolio or engineering notebook. We have created a sample design process here, robots, which you can take inspiration from or use, we don't mind. And the most important part of having an acronym for your design process is making sure that it's memorable for the judges. And if it's memorable, it piques the judges' interest, which leads to bid judges coming to see how your design process is used. The first part of this design process, review, is basically how your retrospective works, what you do after a qualifier, how you talk about what went right and what went wrong, and how you essentially look at what you have to do and how you obviously fix the problems that you have. A big part of reviewing and your retrospective is setting improvement goals off of these past qualifiers to do better in the next one. The next one, optimize, is initializing your improvement plans and obviously starting those plans. This is where you streamline your robot design, reduce unnecessary weight, also where you increase stability and improve efficiency, whether that be by 3D printing parts that are metal for no good reason, or by fixing up the code and removing any bugs. You have to look at your worn out parts and you have to address problems and issues by finding potential solutions. Another big part of optimizing is asking the drivers whether the robot feels good with the controller and asking if it feels good while driving, and if it doesn't, fixing any problems that might cause that. The next step is building or modifying your robot off of solutions. This is where you implement more mechanical solutions to improve robot quality. And it's also where you build prototypes to ensure that your ideas work. As someone once told me, if it works in CAD, it's not necessarily going to work in the real world. So you have to build prototypes to ensure everything works out perfectly. You also want to improve durability, minimize weight, and obviously, as I said before, use 3D prints where you can. The next step, operate, is where you practice and verify each part of the robot works consistently and accurately. This is where drive practice comes in play, and it's very important that you practice, because if you don't, you're not as consistent and you won't do well even if you have a good robot. The last bit, testing, is where you put pressure on the robot and test it under unique conditions, basically seeing where the robot could possibly go wrong. And if it does go wrong somewhere, you go all the way back to the optimize step and figure out ways that you can help it not go wrong.
I'm Caleb, I'm a mechanical captain. So for robot preparation, it's important for a tournament to ensure that you're ready for anything. First, for printing spares, definitely for your 3D prints. You have at least one spare of every part in case in a game you break one, or even more depending on what you're asking of it. For example, like a claw, there's a good chance that you might break it in a game. Then it's also important before to run your own robot inspection, because maybe there's a chance you accidentally broke one of the rules and you need to make sure that you're actually competition ready. So another thing is fabricating your robot. Instead of using metal components, you could probably like 3D print some pieces, like custom mounts instead of unnecessary quad blocks, stuff like that. And then also, you should also make sure you know how to repair your robot and practice it. Like, for example, like if you have like something that's prone to break, like a claw or something, you should be able to fully disassemble it and know how to instantly swap it out for the next match. And then for testing, you guys should practically like test your robot to the limits and just do that by consistently running drag practices and see what you can solidify on it.
Okay, so I'm here to talk about prototyping with CAD. So how many of you, just a show of hands, have heard of CAD? Okay, so a lot of you. How many of you have like actually CAD'd something in the last week? So not as many. So CAD stands for computer aided design. CAD is the bedrock of our mechanical team, and before building anything, we CAD it to just work out any potential issues that may be with it. So Onshape and Fusion are two of the biggest CAD programs. They're both free to students, so we highly recommend that you choose one of these and really use it because of all the benefits that come with it. You can review all of your mechanical stuff. You can build out your different mechanisms and test them to make sure they work. And it's great for looking at how everything fits together. And so that's one of the major uses that we have for CAD, just making sure how everything fits together. You can also use it to get great renderings to use in your portfolio and notebook and other stuff such as that. And so it's one of the greatest tools that we have here on the mechanical team.
All right, we're going to move into documentation, and we're going to talk about logs first. Now, logs is really just like a recording of what you did. We like to do logs at the end of every meeting, so it's kind of like a snapshot of time. What happened, what took place. You can see here, we have, at the very top, we always do our date. We have what we did, what challenges we faced, tasks that we want to go, kind of like our goals. And yes, they might seem like a chore, okay? But that's actually good, right? Because it shows that you're dedicated and that you have consistency. That is something that judges really like to see. But it's not, logs aren't just for judges. It's also for your team. If you have a meeting and you do something, say you worked on the limelight, you got it set up, you would do a log of that. And then say 3-4 months later, you're like, what did we do that day? Well, you have logs. So you can go back in time, essentially, and see who worked on it, what happened, what were some challenges that you faced, which again, going back to some things that we said earlier, challenges are really important to have identified. How you solve them, and kind of like what are your next steps. Now we have up here something called the log overseer. That's kind of a fancy name I like. Also has Fallout vibes, which is kind of cool. But what that is the role that we assign to whoever is going to be managing the logs. They don't necessarily, they're not necessarily charged with actually writing them, but they make sure that they get written, and that's really important. So they kind of delegate whatever logs need to be written. And if one of them falls on them, they can do it. But otherwise, they need to make sure that whoever actually worked on something writes a log for later. And one final thing, pictures. I said before, pictures are super important because visuals are a lot of times more powerful than any sentence you can write. And like here we have some auto paths, and that is also really good because you can show the evolution of things without having to just write down a bunch of words. Words don't quite give you the full image all the time. But if you have pictures of your robot, you can have pictures that you can use later as well. And you can see the actual visual evolution of it as well, which is a lot more, it's a lot easier to intuit for anyone reading it. And it also comes from a more powerful timeline if you choose to make one later.
The next thing that I'm gonna go over with is iterations. Iterations are basically documented changes of subsystems that is not improved. And if this is shown well on your notebook, it shows what you learned and how and like what changes you made to your robot that like overall improved your robot. And then some ways to show iterations is take pictures. As Jay said, this is really important for your judges to see what your previous subsystem was and now how it is improved. And also show why and how you made the changes. This is also important because this also like improves your robot and your robot games. And also try to provide statistics. This is highly encouraged due to your judges being able to know how your new subsystem and your improved subsystem works better than your previous subsystem. And lastly, include any visual representation such as CAD, sketches, drawings, or however your team feels comfortable with. As I said before, this is a really good way to show the judges. An example for us was last year, our intake kept getting stuck. So we changed the CAD for it to work better and to have more serviceability.
Now, again, we have questions and alumni time. So does anyone, either in person or online, have any questions? So I actually have had a commonly asked question, which was, what are some ways to keep your robot? So obviously there's ways to fix it when it breaks, but what are some ways to keep your robot from breaking in the first place?
Well, preventative maintenance on your robot. Again, you mentioned before about doing endurance testing. It's really important to get ahead of the game and actually just have something designed and then doing thorough testing on it to see what your weak points on your robot are. In which case from there you iterate and see what the weak points are, and then you keep iterating to the point where it's sufficient enough to go through an entire season. Let's say you do like 12 matches times like 3 qualifiers, and then you have to go through state. It just has to go through 50 matches, right? It doesn't have to be over engineered where you need to have it be made out like titanium or whatnot. But just putting a lot of thought into it goes a long way.
So Sean from Cyber Salam had a question specific to this season, so we'll be able to answer that because you guys are alumni. So should teams aim for more patterns or just more artifacts in general this year?
Oh, yeah. So at least from a lot of strategy we have done, I definitely think it depends on a few things. More of your robot capability and the tournament you're in at that moment. So each tournament has ranking points specific to that tournament, let it be regionals or semi-regionals and things like that. So to a point, sometimes you can, I think the first bar for semi-regional is 9 artifact points, which can be 9 motif points, my bad, which can be scored also in auto and in tele-up, like just doing straight purples and even like just randomly hitting it in auto is really likely. So and that point in those earlier competitions, just feeding as many artifacts in is relatively good. But if your robot is able to do a motif in that same time you can shoot artifacts, it allows you to actually go a lot faster and being able to get these ranking points. And these ranking points are also really important because this also helps you get higher seeding for playoffs.
And a little bit more on what Rhodes said. So I think there's 3 or maybe 4 levels of competition. And in each of those levels, the requirement to get the ranking point moves up. So for semi-regional, which is like your bottom initial competition, you only need 9 pattern points. But for the next level, which would be maybe state or a larger regional, depending on where you are, you would need, I think, around like 12 balls in the right pattern, which increases your need for sorting. So it really depends on what level of competition you're at. In general, it's usually more helpful to aim for more balls in general.
We have a question from YouTube from Pablo. It said, how do you make your robot fail safe and foolproof? So that nothing can really go wrong in a game. Like if it's like, let it be like driver error.
I think through experience, unfortunately, it's really hard to make it completely foolproof. But obviously during like the more time you spend with your robot, the more you'll learn, like discover about it. And like understand like when drivers are running practice, things like that, you'll learn where things break and where your faults are at. So it's really over time as you'll understand like what you can foolproof and do your best in that sense, like in capabilities. But
Adding on to what Pavan said, like no plane is perfect, no robot is perfect. So if you practice enough with it, you will eventually identify any failings and you'll be able to devise a strategy to circumvent these in competition or in practice because you know your robot so well and you've practiced so much. Did the alumni have anything else?
I mean, also relying on the experience of your mentors. I know it's hard to identify problems before they come, but just having a once over, not if you don't have mentors that have been in it for a long time and reach out to other teams and have like a once over also helps a lot too. I mean, the first network is pretty expansive and everybody will donate. So
How do you prepare like for defense in robot?
So the question was, how do you prepare for defense in the robot game? And I think we'll answer this one as well because it's season specific. So this game is very defense heavy because all the shooting zones, both robots are in there. So do you have any ideas on how to
I
prepare?
think, Pavan, you've been a driver for a few years. How have you dealt with defense in your time?
I feel like it varies depending on the game. I have not looked at this game, so it's harder for me to tell. But it's definitely a combination between being able to, I would like for practice at least, I would put some object or like something that would be in your way on the field and like run a match for like 2 minutes and like see like how comfortable you can become with being uncomfortable or like having something like push you, doing things like that. I would test your robot and see like where or like how easily it's able to be pushed, things like that. Yeah, when you get to the like higher qualifiers or with robots that you know are going to be stronger, I would yeah, just kind of test things out in practice. Otherwise, it's really hard to like, you don't want to go to qualifier and be like, oh, I have no idea what to do like here, or like, you want to be in every position or scenario, before a match. So just kind of.
You add your robot for defense?
Yeah, so I mean, adding on to him, you can mechanically design your robot to be almost defensive foolproof. So things like a turret in this season's game definitely help a lot because you're able to unlock an ability to shoot on the move. That's one thing. I've seen teams that have bumpers on their actual robot, so then it actually stops robots from hitting into you. Being able to just your robot movement, there's more advanced things like a swerve drive that would help you for defense. But yeah, adding on to Pavan too, in practice, like we've used putting chairs onto the game field so that you can't shoot from the chairs, and it just helps your drivers know where to shoot from and just getting in the practice of defense.
So Mustang Megabytes had a question. What do you think is the main focus for accumulating ranking points? So the way the ranking points work out is you get 3 ranking points for a win, 1 for a tie, and 0 for a loss. And then there's an additional 3 you can earn each match based on different objectives like the leaving the zone in auto and lifting or just getting a park. There's patterns with sorting, and then there's just overall how many balls you've launched. So it's really like it favors the robot that can do everything, but you can usually consistently get an artifact pattern point and a leave pattern point just by having a good teleop strategy with good fail saves on what to do. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think a big thing for even auto, if you're not, let's say you're struggling with creating an auto the night before qualifier, you're running late. One big thing I think is just getting that leave point. So you're pretty much just barely moving outside of that launch zone. It helps your teammate and you being able to just get that just easy point that helps a lot. And then just practicing a ton, you're gonna get that ranking point of the goals pretty easily if you just practice.
Someone says, could you give some examples of things to log?
What are some examples of things to log? So
Everything. It's just like a daily log is like beneficial in the sense like you can just after a practice, you just write down things that you wanted to like your goal for the practice and then what you actually got accomplished and then what you want to accomplish next time. I feel like it's a good way to track if you're being productive and efficient during every meeting. And you can do it by sub team, you can do it per person if you wanted to. I think sub team's the best, but yeah.
So yeah, really, the more you have to work with, the easier it is later on.
I think a lot of people also have the question of how do you actually practice driving? Do you run different drills? Do you run a full game? How do you go about it to get the most optimal practice out?
Yeah, again, it depends on the game for like drills or like things that we would practice, but I would always like set goals like you versus the field and like try whether it's like a number goal or things like that, like get 15 of these like balls into this target, whatever the game is. Set a goal for yourself, try to hit it every single time. I think consistency and just like really spending as much time as possible on the field with your robot is like the best you can do. Like the more you do it, the less there's going to be unexpectancies on the actual field, match time, things like that. So really just practice as much as you can.
Are there any other questions in person or online? Okay. So then we move on. So, yeah, let's see.
Wait, yeah. So one big initiative we have is FTC Wires. It's something we started a few years ago, and our goal was to grow as much teams in Wisconsin as possible by giving them resources to just help them start up. This is not just stayed in Wisconsin. We have around 250 plus teams all around the world. Some of our biggest things that we show on our software platform here is that we have basic autos just to get a team started up. They're in blocks or Roadrunner, and it's just to help teams get that start and that little kick to just know what they're doing. We have full training resource on how to use Roadrunner because the docs weren't to the level that people could really understand it well. Going back to one of our questions on how do you understand something that's not very well documented. So let's say for a Roadrunner example, we were able to document all of this really well and being able to help teams just understand Roadrunner a lot better. It's not just a software platform though. We have a lot of business resources. So if you're struggling on how do I build a portfolio, even slides like these will all be posted on FTC Wires. So teams can kind of come back and look at it and just see and get resources to help start up their team.
So to conclude this session, today we went into detail on the different things that a team should include in their portfolio, their judging process, and how they should structure their robot strategy and game strategy. We went over what each sub-team should talk about in terms of what they should present and how they should frame their information. And then we've also talked about what each team should claim for each award category and how to structure your portfolio and judging presentation around each of these awards.
Some things we learned is how can we improve your current portfolio? What do you actually include? What do you demonstrate? All the awesome work you've actually done this season and seasons before. How to actually prepare for a game? What do you do? How do you practice? Do you do certain drills? what are ranking points and how do you actually maximize these ranking points. We also went over a lot of robot building tips and ideas that'll help you get that head start for seasons to come and just this season of how to actually keep on prototyping your robot to be the best it can be. We also went on team impact. So what does your team do to spread STEM? How can you do things like this? And how do you just overall grow the outreach side of your team a lot more?
And then to end off our session, I wanted to thank everyone who attended both in person and online. I wanted to really thank our alumni for taking the time out of their day to come and answer some of our pressing questions. And I wanted to, yeah. And so some of the next steps that you guys should be taking after this information dump is I want you guys to plan how you're going to take this information, how you're going to incorporate it into your judging presentation, into your portfolio, and into your game strategy. Then you should actually do these things, integrate your new information into your old and create a much better product with it. And also, please give us your feedback on how you think this event went, what you found most useful, how it helped you in competition, and what you'd like to see us do next year as we improve this event and do it multiple times. So once again, thank you guys for joining, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. For in-person attendees, I think lunch is outside and down the stairs. So you guys can all go eat lunch, and then we'll be having in-person robot support where you can talk with the team, talk with the alumni, and you can hold some scrimmages as well.
Yeah, and then one more thing for random engineers, just referring back to your question, that team database is still getting updated. It takes a lot of time to fully update everything. So we're in the process right now of fully updating our database again with everything from this year and all the contact info. And thanks for looking at that one. Yeah, thank you once again for all you guys coming and great meeting. If you have any questions, please reach out to us.
Just end the meeting.